Coming to you from the dining room table at East Barbary Lane, welcome to a special episode of Full Circle, the podcast. I am your host, Charles Tyson Jr., and I'm so happy to get to sit down with good friend, fabulous performer, and choreographer, and director, and producer, and just handy-dandy creator of all things fierce and fabulous. I got to sit down with Gunnar Montana. You might remember from a previous episode in season 1, we sat down and talked to Gunnar about his amazing immersive fringe festival work called Bathhouse. Well, he's back again to talk about his new endeavor entitled Blackwood. So, like I said, I got to sit down and talk to Gunnar, and let's check out the interview. And Gunnar Montana is back at the Full Circle table. How's it going, sir?
Hi, Charles. Thank you so much for having me again.
Of course. So the last time you were here, we were talking about what turned out to be your epic work, Bathhouse.
Epic is a great word for that one.
Yes, all the things happened.
So over the top, right?
It was fabulous. I was proud of you.
I'm smiling over there in the corner. You and yeah.
We really were. So what's been new in the world of Gunnar Montana Productions in the past year?
Well, I usually take some time off in between shows, so I took that time for myself, and then I dived right into the darker side of things. So I have been building caves and building wells and working with witches, and now we're in Blackwood, which is a supernatural forest of crazy witchery. And I've been here for a few months, you were just working on it, and we open next week, and it's a really wild show. I mean, I say that every year,
right,
but this one is just as wild as any other, for sure.
Yeah, because I see your Instagram, and you've been building this thing for months now.
Yeah. I design it for a few years just in my head and working with music and all of that stuff. And then I get to work on it usually in June. I started this year, and it's just nonstop until the show opens.
Yeah.
So it's quite a journey. And this one has been a really great journey, a really fun one.
Yeah, I spoke with Danielle Carica.
Yes.
And I mentioned your name. The first thing she said was, "That motherfucker."
She's been saying it a lot this year too.
Out
loud to me.
And she talks about how like you're making changes up until.
Yeah. This show actually has a special performance on Halloween night. We run until Halloween. We have 40 shows. But the Halloween show is a little different. So we're actually like choreographing new stuff throughout the entire experience and adding it in. I have no problem like just jumping in, striking dances, adding new dances in the middle of a run, So it's never set in stone. It's always the journey until the show closes. So yeah, the dancers usually just go along for the ride, and it is a lot of that motherfucker throughout the entire process.
I love it, and that keeps it exciting for everyone involved, I'm sure.
Absolutely, it keeps everybody on their toes.
So you are always, creating the space, the world that your works inhabit from scratch, from conception to reality. Have you always been a crafty queen, as they say?
Yeah, I guess so. And I somebody told me that the other day, and I was like, oh, I guess you're so right, because I do everything, right? So one day I'll be sewing, the next day I'll be painting a set, the next day I'll be building a cave, the next day I'm choreographing a dance, the next day I'm working on the music for that show, the next day I'm working on lighting design with the designers, all of these things. And it kind of just happened organically because I started off not being able to pay anybody for anything.
Right.
So I was if I want to get this done, I got to do it myself. So I ended up learning all of this stuff to do. And I crave learning stuff like that. I get really excited about it, like new things, new skills. I just picked up the soldering iron for the first time a couple days ago.
Oh, shit.
That's not my thing. That's not one of the, I'm not going there, but I can sew, I can do all of that stuff, mostly because it's so expensive for labor, especially now, that if I do it myself, it's 5 times faster usually, and it's free.
Right.
You know,
and you know what you want, and you know what you want the end result to look like.
Exactly. I know exactly. I have my hand on everything. Everything in this show I have touched.
Nice.
Yeah. So
take that as you will. Nice. So, talk to me about how we got to this crazy auteur that is you. Like, talk to us a little bit about where you came from.
Well, I came from, and talking about like multifaceted stuff, I came from Montana, and I grew up in Montana, right? So there was a lot of downtime, and there was a lot of woods in Montana. So it kind of is a great incubator for a creative mind, right? Because you grow up with not a lot around you, and so you just make up worlds that you would rather be living in,
Right.
which I essentially do now. But I've always been a really creative kid. Even now I'm a creative kid, So I grew up in a kind of a rural area, and then from there have just kind of harnessed that energy. I went to boarding school in the burbs with the Quakers.
Oh, wow.
They're awesome. And then I went to dance school after that, and I have always been doing visual art on the side. And then now I just do whatever the hell I want to do whenever I want to do it.
That is accurate.
Yeah.
I want to make, an iron bathtub that suspends from the ceiling that people can swing from. I want to, make myself into a life-size Barbie/Ken doll.
Exactly. If it comes to mind and I want to do it, I do it.
And I do appreciate, the hands-on approach.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of artists with grand visions, they're used to like snapping their fingers and having things happen around them. And I imagine that you doing everything yourself, you have such a bigger appreciation for the full production.
Yeah, and I have a crazy team around me too that I'm able to delegate a lot of this work to, which is really nice.
Right.
But I think even my team is surprised at how immersed I am in the process, because I'm picking up a hammer, in between meetings and stuff like that. So it does have a very organic feel when you do that, when you're on the same level as everybody. And the work comes off as incredibly authentic because there is no real hierarchy there. Everybody's just working their ass off, who's involved. So I just surround myself with hardworking people and people that enjoy working, because that's another Montana thing. I grew up working a lot and very hard, because the work is, chopping wood and like, and like shoveling snow. Like, it's just a hard work lifestyle. So I've come to really enjoy it. So I expect it out of everybody around me.
I love it. I love it. So talk to me a bit about Blackwood. Like, where did the concept come from? What are we in store for?
I actually don't know. I'm so close to the process. I have no idea how this show is going to be perceived, but I can tell you that it came from, I have like an assortment of dancers that have followed me throughout the years, who keep coming back to the work, and I keep asking to be back in the work. And a core of them are women, and are very like intensely strong women, not only like on stage, but like physicality wise. They're just beings of strength, right? So I was like, oh, that'd be really fun to make a coven and to really highlight all of these women that have been following me throughout the years, right? So I kind of dove into that, and I was like, I want the cast to be 90% women. And then I dove even deeper into it and said, what is a witch? So I went and I took a solo trip to Salem, and I listened to a few books on my way there and back. And kind of just came to the conclusion that I really wanted to create a world where women felt very powerful, almost detrimentally powerful. And I really, what I learned was that kind of witchcraft, especially when it comes to Salem, is a great way of suppressing women, and that's kind of like its origin story of you're a witch, so you can't move up in society.
Right.
And I still do that today with women, it feels like. So I was connecting all these dots for myself and trying to find like where women feel powerful and then bringing that out in the show. So it's an origin story of the witches of Blackwood, and I wanted to create a world where the witches not only don't need men but benefit from their death. So they become this kind of like really femme fatale, kind of like ninja warrior figures that are just out to kill men. And I think that stems from just my distaste for what being a man is, especially in this country. I have such a hard time with that, and I find it disgusting how we are manly. What manly means,
Right.
So I'm very excited to kill it off in this show.
I like that.
Yeah, for me, it's more about, I don't know what being a woman is like, but I know how much strength I gain from the aspects of my feminine side, and how much that attributes to my character and my work. And I feel like it's not talked about enough, and for men, and I feel like the strength behind it isn't talked about enough for qualities in men. So it's really fun to take kind of the more toxic concepts of men and just demolish them.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something that I have said many times. We, as an American society, the way we classify gender, that, all the qualities that we ascribe to being a man, it comes from the fact that we don't raise boys to be men, we raise them to not be women.
Right, exactly.
So anything that is considered feminine is like, vilified if you
Yeah, and you can see that, especially when you look at like the history of witches and like mostly Salem, because I was doing a lot in Salem. It's just kind of horrifying how they held back women,
yeah.
and all of that stuff. So it's really fun to take all that stuff and kind of spin it on its head. And horror is the perfect genre to do that with. You can get so allegorical with it. It's a lot of fun.
And because of the quote unquote fantasy element of it, you can do anything you want.
Exactly. And it really is done in the show.
Nice.
There's a lot of curveballs and a lot of just wild stuff that happens. So it's really cool.
Not that we expect anything else from you.
Right.
So that whole like blurring the lines of gender and gender performance is a running theme throughout your career, I would say, right?
Yeah, it can be. In my horror elements, they tend to feel straighter for some reason. Now it's queer people making the work, so it always has a queer feel to it. Like everybody behind the scenes is queer in this show. But the elements of the show aren't necessarily like the relationships are straight and stuff like that, because maybe because I find straight people villainous. I don't know. But you can feel there's a queerness in it. You can feel it in like the connection that the witches have in this, and their coven. It feels very gay to me. And a few of them are gay, which is really nice. So it definitely leaks out. I would say that I don't put an emphasis on making gay work, quote unquote, for my horror shows. It's not about that as much, but like shows like Bathhouse and Motel Montana, they're more about embodying that queerness, that queerness, The horror shows aren't as much about that. They're more about my more subdued kind of personal side, I would say.
Okay. But, anything that comes from authenticity, the queerness is going to come out. That's just how that is.
Yeah. We're trying our best not to just have a rainbow colored show. We're designing lighting today, and I'm like, I want blues and reds and yellows, and I'm like, no, it's not that kind of show, girl.
Girl, calm down.
Yeah, girl, calm down. Let's be spooky.
I mean, there have been times when a big rainbow's come at me and I've been like, ah, but that's another story altogether. Fabulous. So the show is going to be at the Latvian Society again?
Yes, always. I have a big following of people that come and just come to see how I've redone the space every year. You know,
Yeah.
um, they get so excited about how different it is every year, and this show is very different. So, so it's always fun to see what I do with it, I feel.
That is awesome. And you said 40 shows?
Yeah, so we run starting on the 7th of September. We run till Halloween for 5 nights a week, excluding Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay. So you crazy.
Yeah, lots of crazy. Lots of crazy. You know, you got to get it in while you're young.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. So, how has the response been? Because you have a whole year in between these works. Like, what has the craziness of your shows? What kind of response has it gotten you from the community, the arts community, the queer community at large?
Honestly, I think people are so on the go these days that the moment the show closes, it's like I died. You don't hear from anybody. It's actually one of the more depressing parts of my work is that you feel very famous for like 2 months and you're surrounded by people that are like all about you and all about the work, and then as soon as it's over, it's crickets. And it's so dramatically fast that it happens that it almost throws you for like a complete loop, you know. And I used to get really jolted by it, and I used to get really saddened by it because it's such a high to such a low.
Right.
Because it's also this time of year where everybody retreats for winter right afterwards.
Right.
So everybody's gone, right? So it used to be really depressing. Now I come to appreciate it, and I understand what it is and what the process is. But I only really hear about my work through people that like stop me on the street, and that will happen in grocery stores. That'll happen in, people stop by my warehouse sometimes in Philadelphia, and they just walk in. They're like, "Oh my God, I loved your show." So it does happen, but it does feel like its own cult underground following. And it only comes up one time a year, and then everybody just goes about their business, and they come back the next year. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing glamorous or famous about this work. You know, it may feel really fun to come to, but when it ends, everybody goes back to their next Netflix specials,
Right.
And all of that, and you're just stuck with what you made, you know, and how you feel about it personally.
That's crazy because I know, if I do a 3-day performance, that post-show depression is real anyway.
Yeah, very real.
But I can't imagine it's like, and now it's over, everyone's going, and it's cold.
Yeah, exactly. And you're depressed anyway.
I'm so cold.
Yeah, there's no sunlight. And it's also something that I've worked on for almost a year, designing and building, you know, and right now it's like 14-hour days for the last month. So like to have all of that work done at the same time and to be on a brand new slate is almost traumatizing.
Right.
You know, it just feels like a part of you has died, like a creative child has died, you know.
No, that's real.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, well, what's next? You know,
I'm still young. I can make more.
yeah. So it's an influx. Everybody sees me at my highest, and everybody sees me after the shows, and they see me performing, and it's the height of the high, right?
Right.
But it's the year-round stuff that really gets you as an artist, I think, and is really hard to get through.
Well, at least you also have the months beforehand, thank goodness for social media. I can't believe I just said that sentence. Where you can create that sense of anticipation.
Yeah, for sure. And it's fun to take on projects other than those artsy projects as well on there. So you do kind of like get to work on something from an arm's length, because all that said and done, I'm an incredibly introverted person. So when I do a show and I interact with so many people throughout the run of it, I've accumulated enough energy for a year. I can go into hiding for a year after that, because it takes a lot out of me to be that present with people, and to be that extroverted. So I'm totally fine kind of hunkering down and getting on social media and being a social media character for the rest of the year after that, you know.
Right.
I have spent all my spoons, as they say,
Yes.
in the show. So I do use Instagram for that reason.
Yeah, I remember the first cave that you were starting to build. I was like, okay, he's building a cave.
Mm-hmm.
What is this fool doing? What is he starting now?
And the cave is actually one of my favorite parts of the show right now. It is such a cool thing to walk through into the show. You got to get through the cave to get to the woods. And it's awesome. And I'm so glad I started the show when I did in time, because I had a lot of time to work on this cave, and it came out really, really cool. I'm so excited for people's Instagram photos in the cave, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one thing I love. I love seeing how excited you get when you're making a new piece, a new work.
Yeah.
Because you're so invested. And it's like, look, I have a nail gun.
Yeah. I geek out about it so hard. Like, just figuring out how to do stuff, I get really, really excited about. And that's all these shows are, is just a series of really intense troubleshooting, you know? Like, how do we get this vision alive to our best ability? It's just way too much fun.
Yeah. And how can I put that on the ceiling and climb on it?
Exactly. And then have Danielle do it.
Right. 40 times.
Yeah. Exactly.
So how have you been handling? I know you do a couple of seasonal projects, and sometimes you get a little bit of criticism, shall we say.
Yeah.
You are not afraid to, do things that are controversial,
Right.
quote unquote. I believe Martha said that you push more envelopes than the post office.
Yeah. I'll take it. Take that. Yeah.
How do you handle those moments when people are telling you that you're evil and going to hell? And I know you're used to it because you're a queer person walking the planet, but
right. Well, you prepare for it for most things these days. I think it's gotten so prominent that it kind of has lost a lot of its value and a lot of its oomph for me. Because no matter what you do, no matter what you no matter what you post, somebody's going to say something about it, and somebody's going to have a problem with it. And that can come from the crazy Christians or even the most heightened of liberals. So I've come to expect it, and I hope for it with everything I do. Just so I know I'm making waves somehow, and I know I'm not just coasting. You know what I'm saying? So you have the Barbie box stuff with the Jesus freaks.
That's what I was specifically thinking of.
Yeah, that just love to go after everybody, and that was kind of, that whole concept was kind of designed to do that.
There's no way it couldn't have been.
Absolutely, it's designed to be just tasteful enough not to be too disrespectful, but to piss people off at the same exact time. So I really loved that about it, and I loved how mad people got about it. I thought that was really fun, and I love how many conversations it started about it. Even when the conversations went downhill and they started just going after each other,
right.
There was a talk about in that concept, right? And I have gay friends that came and talked to me about it, about reservations they had about it and stuff like that, because of what they went through as kids or how they were brought up with Christianity and all this stuff. So it opened up a lot of fun conversations for me. I think something that's really detrimental to society at the moment is this kind of consistent need to always be comfortable. So like striving, we're triggered by everything because we're constantly wanting to stay in our comfort zones. And I think that's because the world is so it's dramatically in turmoil right now. So you feel very uncomfortable just being alive. So you're just constantly trying to find comfort in anything, you know? So you're constantly, navigating space to make sure you're the most comfortable possible and canceling people that make you uncomfortable, right? So one of my things as an artist is that I'm really interested in exploring more emotions than just joy and just comfort. And I think that could benefit a lot of people right now. There's such a multifaceted amount of variations of human experiences and emotions, and I think we're so zoned in on comfort that we lose a lot of the versatility of what it means to be human. So there's parts of this show that are designed to be uncomfortable, and you're designed to feel uncomfortable, and you're designed to be triggered watching it. Because it's important to feel that stuff so you know what comfortable feels like,
Right.
you know? And you can do it in a safe space in theater, you know? Nothing's going to get you. Well, you never really know with my shows.
I was getting ready to say,
I can tell you right now that nothing's going to get you. But it's a safe place to kind of explore something that may or may not trigger you. And I think that's really, really important. Because you never know out there in the world right now if it's a safe place to explore or not. So everybody's on edge.
Right.
So in my work, I'm trying to provide a safe place for you to explore any emotion other than comfort, usually. Well, some things are comforting, but online, you're safe. You know, you're safe to have bad feelings. You're safe to be triggered. Like nobody's going to hurt you, you
right.
know? So it's a big part of me of being an artist is giving people the opportunity to feel uncomfortable safely.
And and it's, that's, I've said before, you need the dark for the light to mean something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. You need those moments of discomfort for the warm and fuzziness to have any value.
Right, exactly. And I think we're so adverse to feeling uncomfortable that we're kind of losing sight of that a little bit, you know.
And that's how we get to things like banning books and not teaching that Black people exist.
Exactly. Like you have to know all of these concepts. You have to understand all of the different ways of feeling and being around and all of this stuff, you know. That's one of the main reasons I juggle from horror concepts to outwardly queer concepts, you know, and very joyful concepts, is because I need that balance for myself. I need to be exploring different facets of myself other than high heels and glitter. That's great. That's awesome. But there's many other things to explore, you know, and this show, Blackwood in particular, is exploring some of the more uncomfortable stuff. So that gives me the balance to go back to the high heels and the glitter comfortably, you know?
So there's not going to be any witches in high heels and glitter?
I think that mostly, I got a witch in high heels and glitter, actually.
Okay.
You got to look close when you come, but there is one.
Okay. Because I'm like, there's always room for high heels and glitter.
Wait a minute.
I can't think of a single concept that wouldn't be made a little bit better with high heels and glitter.
Yeah.
So Blackwood is running from, give me the dates again.
The 7th of September to Halloween,
which is the 31st of October.
Yes.
Okay, that is a nice, healthy run. We are going to put the links for tickets and where and when in the notes to this episode. And I know I am thoroughly excited to see the new craziness that's coming from your brain.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see how it's received. So,
we'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly. You'll give it to me for sure. For sure.
Because we love your work. We love your brain and the obvious hard work that comes from the creation, the performance, the marketing, the packaging. It all has that touch of love to it, and that's what makes it good.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you'll love this as well.
I'm sure. So thank you so much, Gunnar Montana, for coming and joining us at the Full Circle table. You're welcome anytime.
It's always great to be here.
Thanks a lot, man.
Bye.
Thank you so much once again to Gunnar Montana. It's always a pleasure to sit and talk with him. And Martha and I cannot wait to check out Blackwood because I know it's going to be something to see, because that's what he does. Something to see. So, now I think it's time for a little podcast business. If you haven't already, why don't you swing on by Apple Podcasts or Good Pods or wherever you enjoy our show and leave us a review or a rating or hit that subscribe button. 5 stars or more, please. Follow us on social at Full Circle the Pod on Instagram and Threads, at Full Circle the Podcast on TikTok. You can follow Martha at iMarthaMadrigal everywhere. Her writing can be found at IamMarthaMadrigal.wordpress.com. I am at Neverscared everywhere. Or you can just visit our linktree /Full Circle the Pod. If you have a story idea or some gossip or just want to say hi and tell us we're doing a great job, drop us a line at askfullcirclepod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. You could also consider supporting Full Circle the Podcast by becoming a patron at our Patreon, patreon.com/FullCircleThePod. Starting at just the $3 a month tier, you get access to all of our episodes ad-free and before everyone else. Then, starting at the $6 a month tier, you get access to our behind-the-scenes and bonus footage, and it only gets better from there. It's fun over at the Patreon. You can also check out our Discord channel, Full Circle the Podcast. Podcast business over. Well, once again, thank you for joining us for another episode of Full Circle the Podcast. I am your host, Charles Tyson Jr., and we're always so glad to get to talk to you all, and thank you for listening. Until next time, bye everyone. Full Circle is a Neverscared Productions podcast, hosted by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal. Produced and edited by Neverscared. Executive produced by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal. Our theme and music is by the Jingleberries. All names, pictures, music, audio, and video clips are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective copyright holders.